Hello, I'm Erin Freeborn, Executive Director at Communities for Restorative Justice, also known as C4RJ. I'm joined tonight with Eric Tenen, who's a Winthrop resident. Thanks for joining me today, Eric.
Thanks, Aaron. I'm really happy to be here with you.
Awesome. Well, first, I would love to introduce the folks watching at home to C4RJ and let them understand a little bit about who we are and what we do. And then I'd love to have a conversation with you about your role at C4RJ as a volunteer. How does
Great.
that sound?
That sounds perfect.
Wonderful. So let's dig right in. C4RJ is a growing nonprofit that partners with 26 cities and towns in eastern Massachusetts and their police departments, the district attorneys of Middlesex and Suffolk counties. We work to rebuild trust and offer a path forward in the wake of crime. We listen to victims, hold offenders accountable, and help restore trust in the community after a crime occurs. Our volunteer-led circle dialogue is called Restorative Justice. Restorative justice is a process to involve, to the extent possible, those who have a stake in offense and to work together to collectively identify and address the harms, the needs, and obligations in order to put things as right as possible. Often this work is done before criminal charges are filed and instead of proceeding with a court case. Restorative justice is founded on these principles. Crime is a violation of people and relationships. Crime creates harms, needs, and obligations. And those most affected should be meaningfully included and empowered in determining the outcome. Restorative justice is personal, it's powerful, and it's why C4RJ is a proven effective option within the criminal legal system. This process makes it much less likely that an individual will commit a similar or worse offense in the future. Our recidivism rate is just 16%. C4RJ took its first case in 2000 and since then has worked with almost 1,000 responsible parties across the Boston metropolitan area. So Eric, I'm sure the people watching at home are wondering how you got involved with C4RJ.
Sure. So, in my professional life, I'm an attorney, and I work primarily in criminal defense. So, I've had a first-hand look at the criminal justice system and how unfair it can be, and how long-lasting it can, its impact can sort of really last long on the persons who go through it. And I wanted a way to try and improve that in a broader sense beyond just sort of the individual cases I was working on. And so C4RJ seemed like a great way of having that broader kind of community-wide impact.
Mm, that's great. Why do you think others in the community should care about restorative justice? Why does it matter?
Well, I think it matters if you really want to live in a town that is fair, a town that is just, but also to live in a place where when there is harm, that harm is redressed and the people impacted feel part of the process and feel healed, feel like they're made whole. And C4RJ does that. I mean, it helps our town be better by through going through this process instead of having these processes worked out in the criminal justice system.
Mm, great point. What do you actually do as a volunteer?
So, when I first started, I was worried that the time and commitment was going to be too much, and thankfully, it's really not. You can really have an impact without having to, work too many hours. So, there's two main things we do as volunteers. The first is when you are working on a case. So, somebody's case has been diverted to C4RJ. When you're working on someone's case, it's about a 6 to 8 week process. And each week you volunteer for about 1 to 2 hours. And that is basically getting ready to meet with the offending party and then working with them. So for about 1 to 2 hours a week, for about 6 to 8 weeks until that process is over. The other time commitment is that once a month, our team meets collectively. So all of the volunteers, we just meet amongst ourselves just to talk about our cases and give each other advice and make sure we're up to date on everything that's happening with C4RJ.
Mm. And who do you think would make a good volunteer?
Anyone who cares about Winthrop, basically anybody, or Chelsea or Revere, anybody who wants to make their town a better place. There's no prerequisite. You don't have to know anything about restorative justice. You don't have to have any kind of training or background to be a good volunteer. Really, we just need anybody who cares. That would be a great volunteer.
Excellent, excellent. And of course, right now, it's even better if you feel comfortable on Zoom
Right.
because all of our work is being done and conducted virtually. So that's a bonus.
Right.
Um, so you talked about the Orange Team and the monthly meetings. Can you share with people how you're meeting during these virtual times? And then also, where do you meet when, like when COVID's over and we get to
Right.
all join in person again? Where does that happen?
I'm looking forward to that.
Yes.
So when we have our monthly, everything's by Zoom. So our monthly meetings, we do it by Zoom. And even when we're meeting one-on-one with the parties who are involved in the process, that's also by Zoom. When we can get back together, the Orange Team meets at Winthrop Town Hall. We have a little room where we go and meet. And when you're meeting with a party, it's basically just find a convenient place in town, normally somewhere in Town Hall or some sort of public building.
Mm, great. Thank you for sharing that. Um, and just to take a brief moment for training so that everybody, even if they don't become C4RJ volunteers, can learn a little bit more about restorative practices and restorative justice. I think it's really important to talk about language and labels and for people to understand that in this conversation we have been using the labels and the terminology victim and offender. I think we do that to try and help people who are new to this conversation understand and orient them to who we're talking about in this process. But in our process, we do receive that police report at the beginning of a case that names that victim and offender. But through our intake process and as we get to know people and in our work with our teams, we actually transition our language away from offender and instead towards responsible party and away from victim towards impacted parties. And this is also important because we acknowledge and in this process are able to work with more than just that one named victim or one or few named offenders or responsible parties, because we recognize that every incident of harm has ripple effects that affect not only that individual, but maybe their spouse, their family, their neighbors, their community. And with restorative justice, we're able to bring those people into our circles in a different way than you can in the courtroom to resolve a case. And so I really just wanted to share that with people because I think that that is one of the most powerful things that we can do.
And that really goes, I think, to what I was saying, which this is really a lot about the community also, right? That language tells you that this is helping our community as a whole just become a better, more just, more healed place.
Absolutely. And with that reference to community, let's make that plea. Let's call people. Let's invite them. We are trying to recruit specifically for this Orange Team. And that Orange Team covers Winthrop and Chelsea. They're our Suffolk County, part of our Suffolk County presence, and it's really important that you care about those communities. You do not have to reside there. It works if you live there, it works if you work there, it works if you care about those communities. So the training is coming up on the weekend of March 20th and 21st. We will most likely have 4 sets of Zoom blocks throughout the 2 days. Don't worry, we give you breaks. Everybody needs to rest their eyes from Zoom. But it will be over that weekend, Saturday, March 20th and Sunday, March 21st. And we do need people to commit to doing the entire training, all of the sessions, so that they can receive the information that we need people to know as new volunteers. And if people are interested, there's a little link there at the bottom, but I think that's a little confusing because it's so small. So we're going to walk you through the process in just a second. And we're encouraging people to please sign up by March 10th because we do try and have a conversation with everybody who applies so that we can get to know you a little bit better, make sure that this is a good fit, and it really is about building that relationship, taking that first step. Anything you want to say about that training, Eric?
So, it's great that we have a lot of cases in Winthrop being referred to us. That's wonderful. What's not wonderful is we don't have enough volunteers, which is why we're doing this. We really need more people to work with it. So everything you need to know, you will learn. It's just the training emphasizes that, I didn't know anything going into this until I started the training. So if you're out there thinking, oh my God, I don't know what to do, you don't have to. You will be shown and learn everything you need on the job.
Excellent point. Thank you so much for that. So I want to walk people through the registration process just so that it's clear. If you go to our website, which is simply c4rj.org, it will take you to this homepage. And it's important for me to point out at this moment to remind you that we are a nonprofit. We are a community-based nonprofit, and we have a few different revenue streams, but one that we rely on so much are donations from individual donors. So if you are a person who might not have the time to be a volunteer in person, or maybe you don't like Zoom and you just don't want to deal with that, maybe you want to come join us after COVID's over, that's okay too. But if you're a person who would like to help support our work by making a donation, when you go to our website, you'll see at the very top right, there's a button for donate, and that'll take you through the process. And I want to thank everyone in advance for that, certainly, because we very much rely on your support. The other thing that I want to show you on our website is how to fill out the application. So if you go in the orange bar, or the maroon bar to the choice I want to help, the drop down menu pulls up that gives you the choice for volunteers. Once you click that, it will take you to a page that explains more about being a volunteer. It tells you a little bit more about the work, shows you some pictures, some other short videos that you can watch. And then at the very bottom, it says, if you are interested in volunteering, please complete this online form. And once you click that, it brings up a sheet that is actually fairly simple. You'll see it asks for some personal information, contact information. It does also ask for references and a resume. If you don't have that, or it's not easily accessible, that's no problem. Just fill this out to the best of your ability. And what would also be very helpful is if in this box where it asks, how did you learn about C4RJ? If you could say that you saw us on Winthrop local TV, that would be excellent, because that will help us expedite your application and get you in this next training, because we want to have you involved. So once you hit submit on this at the bottom, hit submit, let it process, and then we will reach out to you for that next conversation and the details around the training. So I want to say thank you so much to you, Eric, for joining me, for talking about C4RJ, for sharing about restorative justice with your neighbors. So thank you so much, Eric. Is there anything else you'd like to share with them?
You're very welcome. And I'll just say, I feel like this day and age, a lot of people are looking for ways to get involved, ways to make a change. And one of the great things about C4RJ is that when you do it, when you participate in it, the change is tangible. You're working on cases. Sometimes some of the parties involved. Sometimes maybe the incident we're talking about because you heard about it. And so that if you help those parties come to a resolution, you can feel the tangible change that you have made in your community, that we have made this a better place by going through this process. So if for people who really want a way to get involved and don't know how, this is just a wonderful, simple, not too time consuming way to do that.
Mm. Well, I can't say it better than that. So with that, I will say thank you to Eric. Thank you to everyone who is watching, and we look forward to building relationships with you and throughout the community.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.